Let's take a look at this week's internet weather. So we have the top 10 most probe ports for this past week. You can see not a lot of moving slots on the change column over there, but we'll go through all the ports quickly. So the top one for this week is ICMP, which is not really a port, it is a protocol, but that is the top of the list. And if you look at the pie chart, it is interesting to see that the other category is actually just about 3/4 of the pie. And it's notable because I remember being on the show and doing ones where, the first place, number one rank was easily 1/4 of the pie. I think it was probably Telnet back in the days of like those IoT botnets. It's a strange thing to look at and see such a small portion be the top 10s. Or so that means there's just a significant number. Sorry, I guess that just means there's a significant number of other ports that are getting traffic these days. So anyway, ICMP is in first. Second place, 23 TCP. That's Telnet is down 1. In third place, 443 TCP. That is SSL or TLS. Fifth place, we have 22 TCP. That's SSH, followed by 81 TCP. The big mover for this week, that is an alternate web port, oftentimes used for IoT device configuration ports. 6379 is in seventh place. That's Redis, which is an in-memory data store kind of database. 3389 TCP is Remote Desktop Protocol. 8080 TCP is in ninth place. That is another alternate web port, sometimes a web proxy port. That's been moved up too. And in 10th place, 445 TCP, which is SMB. Taking a look at the most sources probing. Again, individual sources, not volume. A lot of these are very familiar ports, so I'll jump around a little bit. Second place, we have 23 TCP Telnet. 4 and 5, 8291 TCP and 8728. Those are both related to MikroTik routers. People will scan for those to identify MikroTik routers. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've looked at it, and maybe there's specific vulnerabilities, but they also might just be used to pivot to find whether a device is a MikroTik router or not, and then scan a different port or exploit a different port. And moving down the list, we've seen most of these. I believe we've talked about AT&T, but that's plain old web. And then in ninth place, 27032 is Steam, which is online gaming. And then 1433 TCP is Microsoft SQL Server. And you can see here that the most sources probing pie graph looks a little more like the way I'm used to seeing it, where it's not all confined into a quadrant. Of the top 10 that makes up more than 25% of the pie. Taking a closer look at port 81 TCP. Again, this is an HTTP port. It's an alternate web port for configuration of IoT devices and other things. There's a 30-day view. And the largest single source of that spike that you see on the right, which occurred, I believe, on the 10th, that was a /24 in the Netherlands. So several IPs in there. I mean, it's a /24, so less than 256. But still a good cluster of concerted effort against that port. What they're scanning for in particular, I couldn't tell you. And we'll take a closer look at 27030 UDP, which is Steam. Again, this is usually related to gaming. Because it is a UDP port, it is possible that people are scanning for these to use in reflective DDoS attacks. UDP is good for this because you can fake your source IP address and pretend that it's the destination, and the server will respond back to your target. Not sure what the amplification factor is, which is to say, if I send X number of bytes, what's the response size? Is X plus N, and the larger N gets, the more of an effect effectively more traffic or more you can send downstream. And the most of these spikes are from sources in the United States.
It's interesting though here, Matt, because it doesn't quite totally look like a uniform graph, but it does look like there is some amount of consistency to where the peaks and valleys are. So it almost looks like what you might expect to see on a day-to-day, but there seems to be enough variability to kind of make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, now that you're mentioning that, it looks like the tick marks that we've got that mark the start midnight of every day, UTC. It looks like we do have consistently a peak on each of those, and then a trough around 12 noon UTC. That doesn't hold true for all the days, but certainly for most of them. So I wonder what that's about. Maybe someone's got a cron job somewhere looking for Steam servers that runs every night at midnight. Hard to say. Although it does look like they ramp up slightly before and then trough back down slightly after. So it's a good question. I wonder what that's about. Well, maybe we'll find out.
Maybe.
And that is everything.